Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Dr. Dawson, and today we're going to talk about what should be in your rabbit's first aid kit. So there's a few big reasons why you guys need a first aid kit for your bunnies. Number one is that accidents and things happen when your vet is not available. This is just a fact of life, and sometimes you have to go and drive a very, very long ways to find a vet who's open in the middle of the night or on a holiday weekend or anything like that. Sometimes you guys have to do some first aid so that the vet can actually get a chance to look at them and do something. So let's get started. Number one is gonna be critical care. And this is a powdered dry food. And the reason that I say you want this for sure, 100% want this, is because it has basically ground up hay. And you might say, well, that's not a big deal, but it can be a really good source of energy if your bunny is in GI stasis, if they're sick, if they're not wanting to eat. Now, in order to get that into them, you're going to need a catheter tip syringe. I recommend getting a 60 mil, you can get away with a 35 mil. So a catheter tip syringe, and that's this big wide tip. And you mix it up in a bowl with some water, instructions are on the back, and you put it in a syringe, and then you can syringe feed your rabbit, and I'll probably make a video on that here in the coming weeks. So critical care, huge item, make sure you do it. Number two on the list is a number for an emergency veterinarian who will see rabbits after hours or during the day. So make sure you have that in your first aid kit. You may be able to say, well, I can Google it, but it's really nice to have it right on hand when you need it and not having to search for it and find out that maybe they're not as close as you thought they were. Number three is gauze pads and bandaging material. So I got a big sleeve of gauze here. This was actually to clean my dog's ears. A little excessive, but it's what you can get on Amazon. It's super cheap. Get some for your rabbits. And the reason I say this, you get that, get some Q-tips, get some vet wrap, is that in an emergency, you need to be able to get your rabbit the care they need. If they cut themselves and they're bleeding all over, if something happens, you want to have bandaging material so that you can at least do a first dressing on the wound to get them to your vet so that they don't bleed out while you're trying to get them there. And it can also help to assess, is this just a tiny little cut that will heal on its own, or is this something that we really, really need to get seen now? So that would be a huge thing for the list. The next thing in my list is some sort of disinfectant. Now I have Vetricin spray, VF standing for veterinary formula. I think it's just a veterinary formula branded Vetricin spray. So you want some sort of safe disinfectant so that if you have a wound, you have something to dress it with. And this can help to clean if you need to, clean some sort of irritation, if they have, if they have urine scald, if they have abrasions on their feet, if they have sore hocks, any of those things, this kind of a disinfectant can be super helpful. Get it cheap on Amazon. The next thing on my list, and I don't have it in front of me right now, is pediatric simethicone. And the reason that we want this is it is a gas dissolving drop, or it's a drop that helps relieve gas. If your rabbit is showing signs of abdominal pain that would be consistent with GI stasis, it can be a lifesaver. Even if you just are trying to get them to the vet, this can be huge and be a huge deal in getting them there alive so that your vet can take a look and figure out exactly what's going on. And it's even safe in rabbits that are not dealing with GI stasis, so definitely look into getting these. You can pick them up at Walgreens, super cheap. I'll leave a link down below with all of this stuff as well. Thermometer. Now I have a pediatric rectal thermometer here. You don't have to get this. You can get super cheap ones at Walgreens. At least once COVID is over, you can. And you can also get just a normal rectal thermometer through Amazon. So the other thing that goes along with this is making sure that you get some sort of lubrication. And this can be as simple as Vaseline in a pinch. Otherwise, again, there'll be a link down below for a specific lubricant for thermometers and medical lubricants. Number 9 is making sure you write normal rabbit vitals on a piece of paper. You can very easily take the pulse of a rabbit in their ear, and you can also listen to how fast they're breathing and watch their chest. You can also, when you take their temperature, you can get their temperature. So making sure you have those vitals in front of you when you need them to make sure, is this normal or is this abnormal? For temperature, we're looking between 99 and about 102.5. You maybe could say outside of that is normal, but I wouldn't go any further than that without calling your vet. Heart rate is anywhere between 150 and 300 beats per minute, and you can feel their pulse in the artery in their ear. So hopefully you can appreciate here. Change the focus a little bit. You can see the ginormous vein or artery in his ear. All right, so you can probably see it run right along here. And what I do when I'm feeling for a pulse, now if your rabbit is really in shock, their ear artery may not pop up, but if they're stressed or if they're in pain or if they're hot, any of those things, a lot of times it'll pop up all the time, but you can always feel it. Now I always will feel with the outside of the ear, because the inside of the ear has cartilage between that and the artery. The other thing is I will always use my fingers instead of using my thumb. So in crumpet, we have the same thing here. Don't know if you can quite see the artery running up and down. The only difference with floppy-eared rabbits like him is that sometimes the artery does not beat nearly as hard, and it can be a lot harder to actually feel. So I'm going to show you guys another method for feeling a heartbeat. You can also feel right here on their chest. So their heart is right in this area. Now I would put fingers on both sides, feel right on the chest, and for demonstrating, I'm leaving him open like this. Don't hold your rabbit like this if you can help it, but you can put your hands on their chest and feel their heart usually, unless they're really obese. If they're really obese, you may not be able to feel it. The next thing is respiratory rate, and this is going to be anywhere between 8 and 40 breaths per minute. Some rabbits you may find are just a little bit over this if they're stressed. So if it's above 50, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it's much over that, make sure you talk to your vet right away, as respiratory distress can be extremely dangerous. The next thing is nail trimmers. These are just ones that I use for all of my pets. They're a little bit big. Some smaller ones can be helpful, especially if your bunny is smaller. And the reason that I would recommend getting nail trimmers is you don't know when they're gonna catch a nail in something in their cage and break it off. And if this happens, it's better to cut off the hangnail than leave it there, bleed in pain, and being that they could be very uncomfortable. Now, the next thing I would have in your kit is some sort of quick stop bleeding protection for nails. You can get these on Amazon. In a pinch, if you don't have it, you can use cornstarch. It does not work as well, but it can be used if the nail of your rabbit is bleeding. You can dip it in, hold pressure on it until it stops. The next thing is a towel. Now you might be like, why do you need a towel? Well, there's a couple big reasons why you want a towel in your first aid kit. And the number one reason is so that you can control your rabbit. If they are in a panic and you need to burrito them so you can look at their feet, look at a wound, whatever, wrapping them in a burrito can be super helpful. Next is gloves. I don't have any right here, but using some sort of nitrile gloves if there is a lot of blood or if there's a lot of discharge can be super helpful. It's something that not everybody thinks about until you go to touch your rabbit and it's full of blood or urine. Next is eye wash, and use normal saline eye wash with no medications in it. You can get these from Walgreens or Amazon, and again, I'll leave a link down below. And the reason for eye wash is if your rabbit gets something in their eye and you can see it, washing it out rather than trying to pick it out is the best way to do that. Next is clippers, and rabbit's hair is notoriously hard to clip. So getting a good set of clippers can be really helpful, but don't be impatient, and making sure that you get down close to the skin without cutting them, as their skin can be super sensitive. But if your rabbit has some sort of wound and you really need to address it and look at it, clipping it before you try to cover it is going to be helpful. Not only is it going to be helpful for making sure that you see what's going on, but it's also super helpful to make sure that blood is not drying the hair to the wound. So when you go to clean it up next time, you don't have hair stuck into your wound, which can really delay healing. Next is some sort of topical application for burns or scalding or any just skin irritation. My favorite is silver sulfidone cream. You cannot, as far as I can find on the internet, buy this from Amazon or buy this at most pet places, as I believe it is a prescription. So if that is the case, talk to your vet, and a lot of times they're willing to sell it to you just because they know, it can be really good for rabbits. This was one of my favorites in vet school. This was one of my favorites of my teacher, Dr. Zaffarano. If you don't or can't get that, another option for like urine scald or something along those lines is bag balm. And it's safe for rabbits. It works fantastic. And it's a really good, that can soothe that skin so that they don't get too irritated. Now, last on this list is Pedialyte. And you might be, why is that? Well, if they're super dehydrated in GI stasis, doing something like critical care and then following it up with some sort of Pedialyte that has electrolytes and it has sugars in it can be really helpful to getting your rabbit's gut moving and getting them rehydrated. Be really careful with this, as the sugars that are in that can cause them to have some diarrhea in some cases, which can be counterproductive. So just be careful with it, but in some circumstances you need it on hand, especially if they're not drinking. A good substitute if they want to continue drinking and just really are struggling, or if they don't want to drink a lot, pineapple or blackberry or something along those lines that's safe for rabbits, and just try it and mix it in their water 10-to-1 and see if they will drink it. That's gonna be all for today's video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have questions about the things in my kit, or if you think I missed something, leave a comment down below and it might get added to the bottom of my list that you can find in the description. If you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button, and we're gonna continue doing some more rabbit content and veterinary content in general. Hope you guys have a fantastic day.